Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Steven's going to be teaching you how to play Blue Moon. Now, this has always been a favorite tune of mine for the sheer fact that the melody is absolutely gorgeous, but I think it also has a special place in my heart because of that opening scene in American Werewolf in London. It's one of those opening scenes that is movie magic, and if you haven't seen it, check it out. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this song and playing it, because I did get a chance to go through the entire arrangement, and I think it's going to be best suited for the upper intermediate player. Now, here's the reason why. From a left and a right hand perspective, what your left and your right hand is doing, it's not a really hard fingerstyle type of tune, but what makes it challenging is the fact that the rhythm is swung throughout. And that swung feel, that gives this arrangement a very playful feel, a very playful vibe. And I think that's the coolest thing about Steven's arrangement, is that playful feel. So if you're new to understanding the difference between playing with a straight feel versus playing with a swung feel, then check out this lesson. I'll put it in the description box below, but it's going to break down the difference between the two fills, and it has a really cool and cute sounding etude that you can learn to really get it ingrained into your playing. Now, let's go ahead and talk about learning this tune, because in this video, Steven's going to teach you the entire arrangement. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Blue Moon. Now, also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tabs scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Steven to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson on Blue Moon, which is just another absolute classic tune in my opinion. I think everyone knows this song. It's one of those tunes that you just can't help sing along to when it comes on, and it's super fun to play on ukulele as well. So as Andrew has explained to you in the introduction, we're playing this one with a swung eighth note feel, and it has a very similar feel to the Summertime lesson that we did a while back. If you did that lesson, the Gershwin tune Summertime, this one has a very sort of similar feel to that. So hopefully at this point now you're okay with that. I'm going to assume that you're happy with swung eighth notes, because that's a big part of this piece. So what we'll do, we'll get stuck into it straight away. We'll break down the piece kind of 2 measures at a time. We'll look at 2 measures together. I'll play them through. We'll then break them down note by note as we normally do, and then we'll play them through together nice and slowly before moving on to the next 2. So make sure you've got your ukulele, make sure it's got a high G string on, and let's get going. So we'll start with the A section, the intro. This is just the first 2 measures of the piece, and it just consists of some kind of chord strumming, just to set up that swing feel, rhythm, and lead us into the melody line, which begins at the end of measure 2. So measures 1 and 2, the intro, what they would sound like, all played together is like this. And those last 2 notes there is the start of the melody line, blue, of Blue Moon. Okay, so what we're doing here is we'll look at measure 1. So for measure 1, we're playing the rhythm 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with this F chord, but with the pinky on the A string at the 3rd as well. So we'll hold that shape, and then we just do a full down strum of that on beat 1. And then on beat 2, we do another full down strum on the same chord. So that's just beat 2. And then for the next bit, beats 3 and 4, we're going to do a down, up, down strum on this F sharp diminished 7 chord. So from that F chord, what we'll do is we'll keep our pinky on, because we'll need that one. This 3rd finger is going to drop onto the C string at the 3rd fret, and then these 2 fingers are going to kind of swap over, and they're going to come and hit the E string at the 2nd and the G string at the 2nd, to hold this shape now, this F sharp diminished 7. So on beats 3 and 4, we'll play a down, up, down on this new chord. Okay, but remember it's that kind of swung feel, so it's more of a sort of 3 and 4 rather than a straight 3 and 4. It's more of a, we'll just delay that 8th note towards the end of the beat. and that's our swung feel. So measure 1, that's what we're going for there. Okay, so then into measure 2, we're now going to play the rhythm 1 and 2, 3, 4 and then what we're going to do, we're going to go to this G minor 7 chord. So from here, it's all going to change really, so we'll take pretty much all that off, and what we'll do is the first finger will do a little half bar across the A string and the E string at the first fret, second finger comes on there to the C string at the second, G string's open, that's our G minor 7 chord. So what we'll do here, we'll hold that for beats 1 and 2, and we'll do a down, up, down on that chord. So measure 2, we'd have 1 and 2, and then let that ring over beat 2, and then for beat 3, we're going to go to the C7 chord now. So from here, we'll just take this finger off and just pull that first finger down onto the A string at the first, so we're just holding that note there. That's our C7. Then on beat 3, just do a down strum on that full chord, and then on beats 4 and, this is our melody line, Blue of Blue Moon. What we're going to do on beat 4, we're going to hit the A string at the 3rd fret. So we'll take that first finger off, we don't need that now, and we'll just put the pinky on there, and we will pick that single note with the thumb or the finger, whatever you want to do, and we'll just pick that on beat 4. And then on the and after beat 4, for the next note, we'll just pull that off onto the A string there, that open A, that's our final note of measure 2. So those two measures together would sound like this. Bro. So let's have a go at playing those two measures together nice and slowly now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on to the B section, the verse will start with measures 3 and 4 together, and they should sound like this. Okay, so we look at measure 3. First of all, the rhythm we're playing here is 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. So what we've got going on here, beat 1 is an F chord, like we played in the intro with our A string at the 3rd being held as well. So what we want to do, as we play that on beat 1, we'll probably do a strum of that chord. That's probably the best way to do it. But as we strum it, we need to make sure that we strum all the way through it and really pick out that A string at the 3rd quite loud and make sure it really comes through as part of that chord, because that note there, the A string at the 3rd, that's our melody note that we really need to hear. So as we strum that chord on beat 1, strum all the way through it and really pick out that note there. So if we think about the end of the previous measure, measure 2, the end of the intro, that was the beginning of our melody line, and we played the notes. So this beat 1 now on measure 3, that completes that melody section. Blue moon. Excuse me. So that's beat 1. Then we complete this section now, this measure, with 2 and 3, 4 and. So there's no more melody going on here for the rest of this measure. This is now just a kind of bit of sort of rhythmic filler. But what I wanted to try and do here was incorporate that bass line, because if you listen to the original piece, what's really iconic, I think, about this piece is that bass line. So we have that kind of blue moon, and then you get this dum dum da dum dum da dum kind of bass line, which I wanted to try and emulate here. So the rest of this measure 3 is just kind of the essence of that bass line coming through, and it's not really the proper bass line, but the brain kind of fills in the rest if you know the tune. So what we'd have, if I kind of play the main part of it, what we want to hear coming through is, and then into measure 4 completes that kind of bass line section. So what we're going to do is, we've played beat 1, we've played our F chord with that melody note coming through. Then on beat 2, we're going to pick this E string at the first, which is part of our F chord, so we just pick it on beat 2. Then the and after beat 2, we pull that off onto the open E string. And then on beat 3, we're going to go to this D minor chord. So that first finger we just pulled off, we'll put that back on. We'll put this second finger on as well, so with the 3rd finger on the C string at the 2nd, pinky comes off, So we're holding our D minor chord, then beat 3 is just a strum through that D minor chord. Then on beat 4, we're going to pick that C string at the second, which is part of the chord. So we just pick that on beat 4. Then the and after beat 4, we just pull that note we've just played off onto the open C string. So the third finger there just pulls off onto the open C. So that measure 3 once again. And then complete that kind of descending bass line section by going into measure 4. The first beat of measure 4 just completes that walk down. Okay, so that first beat of measure 4 is the G minor 7 chord that we saw in the intro. So we just strum through that on beat 1. And then the rhythm we're playing here for measure 4 is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So once we've played beat 1, that G minor 7 chord on beat 1, once we've played that, the rest of this measure now is all melody notes. So we want to hear all these coming through quite a little bit louder. So we play these a little bit louder just so that they're really prominent. Okay, so at the and after beat 1, we'll keep that G minor 7 held, but what we'll do now is we'll loop the third finger over onto the G string at the 3rd fret and just pick that single note. That's a melody note, but we're letting that G minor 7 ring at the same time. But then we'll take that off for beat 2, and what we'll do is on beat 2, we'll take all that off and just put the pinky on the A string at the 3rd. Play that on beat 2. For the and after beat 2, we just slide that up to the 5th fret. We don't pick that, we just use the slide to get that sound. And on beat 3, we're going to come back down to this C chord. That's our melody note, but we want the chord in the background as well. So the rest of the C chord is just open strings. So we'll just do a full strum down. That gives us our C chord sound, but it also gives us our melody note. So a little bit like the start of measure 3 with that F chord, make sure as you strum through this C chord that you really pick out that A string at the 3rd, because that's the melody note that we really want to hear. And then after that, on the and after beat 3, we pick that note again. And then on beat 4, we drop down to the A string at the 1st fret, so pinky comes off, first finger goes on, and then on beat 4 we just pick that single note, and that completes that measure. So measures 3 and 4 again, quite slowly, I'll play them for you. This is how they would sound. Brilliant. So that's what we're going for, so let's have a go at playing those 2 measures together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on to measures 5 and 6 now, they should sound like this. And they have a very similar feel and sound to measures 3 and 4. In fact, measure 5 is identical to measure 3. So for measure 5, we're just playing that measure again. Okay, then into measure 6 now. We start in the same way as measure 4 by going to this G minor 7 chord. And the rhythm for measure 6 is identical to the rhythm for measure 4. We're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's just a slightly different set of melody notes because the melody of the song is different here. So what we're going to do, so beat 1, we've played it, G minor 7. Then on the and after beat 1, we're going to play this open G string. And the rest of these now, these are all melody notes. So like before, want to pick them just a little bit louder so that they just pop that little bit more. So the and after beat 1 is that open G string, but we'll leave the G minor 7 chord on as we play that, so that carries on ringing through that note. But then when we get to beat 2, we will now take off the G minor 7 chord, because for beat 2 we want that A string open. So just that single note pick on beat 2. Then the and after beat 2, we're going to go to the A string at the 1st fret, so we'll just use our first finger for that, and then just pick that single note there, and then on to beat 3, we're going to play this just C6 chord. So it's basically just a C chord, but this time we want the open A string as our melody note. So just strum that full chord, but like before, really pick out that top note, that A string at the open, because that's our melody note. And then onto the and after beat 3, we're just picking that open A string again. and then on beat 4 we're going to hit the E string at the 3rd fret, and we'll use the pinky for that, just that single note pick. That's beat 4, and that completes that measure. So once again, measures 5 and 6 should sound like this. So let's have a go at playing those two measures together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on to the next two measures now, measures 7 and 8. Again, these have a very similar feel to the previous pairs of measures we've been looking at. So 7 and 8 together will sound like this. Okay, that's what we're going for. So measure 7 is almost identical again to measure 3. The only difference is that the F chord that we're playing on beat 1 doesn't have that A string at the 3rd fret. It's just the A string open. So the pinky's not on this time, but the rest of measure 7 is just the same as measure 3. So no different there. Then into measure 8, and we're playing now 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so we're playing all the 8th notes in this measure. But now, rather than going to a G minor 7 chord like we've been doing, we're going to go to this B flat major 7 chord. So from the D minor shape we've been on, what we're going to do is we're going to keep that first finger on because we need that one, but then the second finger will just come down onto that C string at the 2nd, that 3rd finger will loop over to the G string at the 3rd, and our A string is open. There's our B flat major 7 chord. So beat 1, we don't want to play that open A string, we just want the bottom 3 strings, or even the bottom 2 will do. It's just a kind of rhythmic strum or tap of that chord to keep the rhythm going, to complete that descending bass line once again from the previous measure. But we don't want to play it too loud, but we don't want that open A string to sound out here because it won't sound quite right. So we could just pick those 3 notes. If you strum them, that's fine, but be careful not to hit the open A. So that's beat 1, our B flat major 7 chord. Then the and after beat 1, this is all melody now, so we'll play this, a little bit louder like we've been doing. So the and after beat 1, we'll pick the E string at the 1st fret, which we're holding here as part of our chord, so we just pick that single note. Then on to beat 2, we're going to play the E string at the 3rd fret, so we'll keep the chord held, but we'll add our pinky on to the E string at the 3rd, pick that single note. Then the and after beat 2, we're going to go to the open A string, so we'll take that pinky off as we do it, and we'll play the open A, but keep the chord held all the way through this measure as we play that. So then on to beat 3, we're going to play this double stop, which is part of our chord, the E string at the 1st and the C string at the 2nd, so just pick those 2 strings. That's on beat 3. Then the and after beat 3, just the E string at the 1st. Then on beat 4, the C string at the 2nd. Then the and after beat 4, back to that E string at the 1st. And that completes that measure there. So measure 7 and 8 together once again. Okay, so let's have a go at playing those 2 measures through together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on to measures 9 and 10 now. We're going to go back to a little bit of strumming just to kind of finish off this B section, this verse. So measures 9 and 10 should sound like this. Okay, so the rhythm we're playing for measure 9 is 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and then what we're going to do is we're going to start with an F chord, and then on beat 1 we're just going to kind of hit that G string at the 2nd fret, which is being held there already as part of our chord. So we just kind of hit that. That's just kind of keeping the rhythm going from the previous measure. And then what we're going to do, we're going to do a down and an up strum on this F chord. So beat 2, do a down strum. The and after beat 2, do an up strum. But then for beat 3, we're going to move to this D minor chord, but we're going to create that sound by hammering on to the C string at the 2nd fret. Okay, so beat 3, we don't actually pick anything, we just hammer on with our 3rd finger there onto the C string at the 2nd, and that gives us our kind of D minor sound for that beat. And then for the rest of this measure, we're going to use that D minor chord that we're now holding and just do an up, down, up strum on that chord. So and for and would be. Okay, so if we put it all together, we're playing. Play that again a little bit slower. Okay, so that's kind of down, down, up, hammer, up, down, up. That's what we're going for. And then into measure 10, we're then going to go to the G minor 7 chord. And then we're going to play down, up on that. So beat 1, down strum, the and after beat 1. We've got the up strum. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this cheeky little triplet just to add a little bit of sort of jazziness here, make it sound a bit cool as we finish off this B section. So what we're going to do on that G minor 7 chord, so keep that held, we're now going to do a quick triplet strum. So beat 2 is a down strum off that G minor 7 chord, but then we're going to split this beat into 3, so it's a triplet strum basically. So what we're going to do on the sort of tri part of this, 2 triplet, the middle part of the triplet, we do another down strum. We'll use the thumb for that. And then the 3rd part of the triplet, we just come back up for an up strum and we'll use the 1st finger for that. Okay, so that little triplet strum there, once again, on beat 2 is 2 triplets. So down, down, up, 2 triplet. So if we put it together with the first part of this measure, beat 1, we would have 1 and 2 triplets. Okay, 1 and 2 triplets. Then if we continue this measure on beat 3, so straight after that triplet strum, on beat 3 we go to this C7 chord. So from the G minor 7, just take the 2nd finger off and slide that 1st finger down to the A string at the 1st, so it's only holding that note, and then do a down strum on beat 3. So if we add that on now to that measure, we would have. That's what we want to be hearing. 1 and 2 triplet 3. And then to complete that measure, on beat 4, we just go back to our blue, ready for Blue Moon. Okay, so A string at the 3rd, pick that note, and then hammer it off, or pull it off, sorry, onto the open A string to finish that measure. So measures 9 and 10 together would sound like this. So let's have a go at playing those 2 measures together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So once we've completed measure 10, we then go back to measure 3 and play that B section, that verse section through once again. So those last 2 notes of measure 10 are kind of like the same as the end of the intro, going into that measure 3. And then we just play through that verse section once more. Once we get to measure 8, the 2nd time round, we don't go to measure 9, then we jump then to measure 11 and play the next 2 measures, 11 and 12, which then take us into the next section, the kind of chorus section. So if we look at measures 11 and 12, they're going to sound like this. So again, a little bit of strumming just to finish off this section leading into the chorus. So for measure 11, we're playing 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and we're doing it on an F chord to begin with. So beat 1 is just like we've done before, this kind of little rhythmic tap off that F chord, probably just the G string will do, just to keep the rhythm going. And then for the rest of this, it's all 8th notes after this, so 2 and 3 and 4 and. What we're going to do on 2 and, we're going to do a down, up strum of this F chord. So 2 and But then when we get to beat 3, we're now going to move it to a B flat chord. So from here, just drop this first finger so it bars across, bring the second finger onto the C string at the second, and drop this one onto the G string at the third. Then we're holding our B flat, and we use this chord now for the rest of this measure 11. So 3 and 4 and is just a down up strum of this chord. So 3 and 4 and. So if we put that whole measure together, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then if we go straight into measure 12, we go back to our F chord and we play down up on that chord. So for this one we're playing 1 and 2 and 4. So we're playing 1 and 2 and 4. So 1 and 2 and is just down up. Then kind of miss the next down strum. Keep the motion going because it helps keep the rhythm. So do the next down strum but don't make contact, and then come back up, make contact for the up strum, and then down for beat 4, and then that kind of last up strum we don't sound out either. Okay, so keep the hand just going in a down up motion, but just on beat 3 don't make contact, and on the and after beat 4 don't make contact on that one either. So 1 and 2 and 4. Play that again. 1 and 2 and 4. Okay, brill. So once again, measures 11 and 12. Okay, brill. So let's have a go at playing those two measures through together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So onto the C section now, the chorus. We're looking at measures 13 and 14 together first of all. So for these two measures, what we want to hear is... Okay, so what we're doing there on measure 13, we're playing the rhythm 1 and 2, 3, 4 and we're starting here on beat 1 with a G minor 7 chord. We've seen that one before, so that's our G minor 7. So what we're going to do for this on beat 1, it's important here that we actually do like an up strum of this chord, because the melody note that we want to hear is the open G string. So we come back up the strum. I use my thumb for that one and make sure that open G, that's what we're hearing sort of as the main note of that chord, because that's our melody note. Then on the and after beat 1, we're going to keep that chord held, but we want to play a G note again. But so that G note can ring out from the beat 1, we're going to play it on the E string at the 3rd fret. So we'll use our pinky to hold that and just pick that on the and after beat 1. And then on beat 2, we're playing that G again, but we're going to play the open one, so the G string open on beat 2. And then that ring over the and after beat 2, then on beat 3, we go to a C6 chord, so we just take all that off. Then on beat 3, just strum that chord, all open strings. And then beat 4, hit the open A string. And then the and after beat 4, come to the E string at the 1st fret, just hold that with the 1st finger, single note pick for that bit there. Okay, so if we look at just that measure again, we would have... Okay, if we then go straight into measure 14, we then start on beat 1 with an F chord. But again, like we've done loads of times before, that beat 1 is just a kind of rhythmic continuation of the piece. So what we're going to do is just tap that G string at the 2nd fret as part of the F chord. And then for the rest of measure 14, we're going to do a down, up, down strum. So we're playing 2 and 4. So the whole measure is 1, 2 and 4. So the way we achieve that is 1, 2 and 4. So a down, up, down strum. So if we put it together again with measure 13, we would have... Okay, so let's have a go at playing those two measures through together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. On to measures 15 and 16 now. These are just repeats of measure 13 and 14, no different at all. So we just play those again. And then we lead into 17 and 18, which sound like this. And we have that change there to that A flat chord, which is just like totally unexpected and random, but just sounds awesome when it happens. But a genius songwriting there, I think, in my opinion. I love it when they do crazy chord changes like that. It's just really brave songwriting, I think. So if we look at measure 17, we're playing the rhythm here. 1 and 2 and 3 triplet 4, and so a little cheeky triplet thrown in there again, but it's alright, it makes sense when we get to it. Hopefully you'll find it okay when we get there. So if we look at the start of measure 17, on beat 1 we're playing this B flat minor chord, which isn't an easy chord to hold. It's not a particularly nice one. What we want to do is use our first finger to bar across the two middle strings, the E string and the C string. Doesn't really matter what you do to the A string because we're not playing that one. So bar across there, and then use the third finger onto the G string at the third, kind of loop it over so it doesn't mute these two strings underneath. So get comfortable with that shape. Quite a tricky one, that. Hopefully you're fine with it, but if you're not, maybe spend a bit of time practicing that one. It's only for a short while, but it's not a particularly nice chord, I don't think. So beat 1, we're just playing those bottom 3 strings, the E, the C and the G. That's our B flat minor. Then on the and after beat 1, we're playing that E string at the first, which is all part of the chord, and then beat 2, the G string at the third, and then on the and after beat 2, the C string at the first, and then we have this little triplet, 3 triplet, which is E at the first, hammer up to the 3rd fret for the middle part of the triplet, and then G string at the 3rd for the end of that triplet. 3 triplet, 3 triplet. So if we put that all together with the first part of this measure, 1 and 2 and 3 triplet, and then on to beat 4, we pick that E string at the 3rd again, so keep that pinky on, and then the and after beat 4, we're going to go to the C string at the 3rd, but we're going to use the first finger for that, so these two will come off, and we'll move that first finger up, just slide it up the string to the 3rd fret, ready to move into measure 18, where we start building up this A flat chord. So just that measure 17 again. That was the wrong fret. That was the right fret. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 triplet 4 and then into measure 18 we're playing 1 and 2 and 4. So we're going to build up this A flat chord. So beat 1, we're going to add our second finger. We're going to keep this first finger held here, which was the end of that previous measure, measure 17, so that stays on there. But then the second finger for beat 1 of this measure takes the E string at the 4th, pick that single note, and then the and after beat 1, we're going to add this finger on to the G string at the 5th fret, pick that note. Then on beat 2, we're going to hit the C string at the 3rd that I'm already holding, single note pick again, beat 2, then the and after beat 2, keep all that held, but now we're going to add the final part of our A flat chord, which is the A string at the 6th, so put that on with the pinky, and then play that double stop, the E string and the C and the A string, play both those together on the and after beat 2, let that ring out over beat 3, then the and after beat 3, keep all this held, hit the E string at the 4th, and then the C string at the 3rd. So as I say, we're building that chord up gradually as we need it. We're not trying to put the whole thing on at once, because as you can see, that is a horrible chord to hold. And if we try and put that whole thing on at the start of measure 18, it'll be really hard to do that. So we'll just build it up as we need it. So if we look at measure 17 into 18, we'll play those two measures together again. I'll play it quite slowly and just watch the fingers as they kind of build up this A flat chord throughout measure 18. Okay, So let's have a go now at playing those two measures through together. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on to the last two measures now of this C section, this chorus, so measures 19 and 20. They will sound like this. Okay, brilliant. So measure 19, what we're doing. So this is all open to begin with. We're starting on a C chord, but we don't need the A string, so we don't need to hold a normal C string. So it's just the open strings. So we're going to start with the E, the C, and the G open, and we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so a nice kind of all eighth note kind of continuous rhythm, so quite an easy one here. So beat 1 is just the E, the C, and the G open, then on the and after beat 1, the E open, then beat 2, and then the and after beat 2, we're just doing 2 taps of the G string, so 2 and then beat 3, we're going to hold this G5 chord, which is basically a G chord, but without the A string, simply because we're not using it, so there's no point putting it on. So beat 3 is that double stop, the E and the C string off that G5 chord. So pick that on beat 3. Then the and after beat 3, hit that single note E string at the third once more. And then beats 4 and just 2 taps of that G string once again. 4 and. So that measure once again, measure 19, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then into measure 20 we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but then just not playing that final eighth note at the end there, so just a quarter note on 4. So what we're going to do now is go to a proper C chord now, because we need the A string at the third, so full C chord, but we will use the third finger for that because we need to keep the pinky free to head up to the 5th shortly. So beat 1 is just a full C chord. You could strum it, you could pick it, whatever you want to do is fine, but again make sure you hit that A string at the third. Then the and after beat 1, hit that A string at the third again, and then on beat 2 we're going to go to the G string at the third, so we'll use a second finger for that. Keep this on, but use a second finger to loop over, hit that G string at the third on beat 2, then the and after beat 2 back up to the A string at the third, then beat 3, drop this down a fret to the 2nd fret, and then we'll hit the C string open on the and after beat 3, and then beat 4, the final bit of this measure, is up to the A string at the 5th using the pinky, just a single note pick. That's beat 4, ready to lead back into the B section, the verse. Okay, so those two measures again, 19 and 20. Smashing. So let's have a go at playing those two measures through together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So once we've finished measure 20, that A string at the 5th, which we play at the end of measure 20, that just slides down to the 3rd fret to go back to starting measure 3 again. So we go back to the B section, back to the start of the verse, and just play through that B section once more. What we do now, so this time around, when we get to the end of measure 8, what we do now is we jump to the coda, to the outro, to the D section, which is now measure 21. Okay, but measure 21 is actually just a repeat of measure 9. So a nice easy one because we've seen it before. So measure 21. So I won't go over that again because we've already done it. And then measure 22 is just a repeat as well. We just go back to measure 8 for measure 22. And then measure 23 again is a repeat just of measure 9 once again. Okay, so there's 3 measures there of the outro, 21, 22 and 23 are all just repeats of previous measures. So I'll play them through again. Okay, so now measure 24 and 25, these last 2 measures of the whole piece, these are the only new measures in this outro, sorry. That's the opposite of an intro. So what we're going to do is go back to the B flat major 7 chord, and what we're going to do now is play all eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we'll play on beat 1, these bottom 3 strings, the E, the C and the G. Then on the and after beat 1, hit the E string at the first again. Then on beat 2, put the pinky on to the E string at the third, pick that note. Then pick it again for the and after beat 2. Then on beat 3, we'll leave it on, go to the A string open. And then the and after beat 3, actually maybe take that pinky off thinking about it when we do that. So the and after beat 3, pick the open A again, because we now need that pinky, because we're going to do the A string at the third, using the pinky. Beat 4, pick it, and after beat 4, pick it again. Okay, so just building up there, kind of going up the scale. That's what we've played. And then into measure 25, the final measure, the final bit of the whole thing, we'll slide that pinky up to the 7th fret, take this off as we do it, and then put the first finger bar across the entire 5th fret and just play that chord, F major 7. Ooh, I do like a major 7th chord. And then play that there on beat 1. That's it. Let that ring out for the rest of that measure, and that's the end of that piece. So the outro, once again, the whole thing, all of those 5 measures are... Okay, so that measure 24, probably start slowing the tempo down there just to ease into this final F major 7 shape. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of the piece. That's the end of this lesson. As always, I hope you have loads of fun learning this one, and I will see you next time.
Hi guys, so I hope you enjoyed learning this tune. It's one of those timeless melodies that's just absolutely gorgeous. And I love the fact that Steven swung the rhythm. It gives it such a playful vibe. So a really fun arrangement to play. Now I do want to give you a friendly reminder that if you did want to get the tabs to print and keep for your records, that was available at this link. Or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Blue Moon. Now also on that page is the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So again guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.